All right, what is up, takers? Welcome back to Ties Take Today Live. My name is Tyler Belt. I am the creative broadcasting director and host of Ties Take Today and Ties Take Today Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We do this each and every Thursday and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And let me tell you all, I have such a exciting show for you. I'm very excited. So we're going to give it just a couple of seconds. If you guys are watching on Facebook and YouTube, be sure to interact with us in the comments as well. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. I'm going to go ahead and put those social medias up on the screen for you all just before we get started with today's interviews. So be sure to follow us on Instagram at It's Ties Take Today, Facebook.com/It's Ties Take Today. And we keep it real simple. If you all want to subscribe to us on YouTube at It's Ties Take Today. So as you all can see, I got the rundown. So we are ready to dive in with today's discussion and topics. Coming up on the show, we are going to be chatting in just a moment with Victor Hicks, who is with Coding with Culture and McKenzie's Adventures LLC. So we're going to be talking to him momentarily. And then we are also talking to Benicia Ciara, who is a upcoming media personality and journalist. So we're going to be talking to her about how she got started in the industry and what her thoughts are on the world of journalism in today's society. Also, we have your top trending topics of the day. And then Will is going to be joining us for that conversation. And Benicia is going to be sticking around as well. So without further ado, please welcome to Ties Take Today Live and our first guest, Victor. Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Just trying to keep warm here in Chicago. You know how that goes.
Absolutely. I am not too far. Well, I'm in Ohio and it's pretty chilly here too. So I was like, got the Christmas background, got the nice little sweater on, trying to stay warm as well.
You know, layers are the thing in this kind of weather. I have definitely gotten out of I got out of step with this type of weather. You know, Atlanta has spoiled me, so it's taking a little bit. I got to get that blood thick again, but it's going well.
Absolutely. Well, I completely understand in these cold temperatures, and I'm sure we'll see snow at any point. Or if I know Chicago recently did see some snow, right?
Well, you know, it's interestingly enough, it snowed here. Both times it wasn't able to stick. We got a little bit on, I think it was Thanksgiving morning, and then we had some last week, but it was pretty cold. It was below zero wind chills last week, so we'll see. You know, but they said we've had a couple mild winters, so I'm here until the beginning of the year, so I'm hoping that it will be a little mild on us.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. All right. So I really want to just go ahead and dive in and introduce who you are to our audience for those that may not be familiar. Like I said, Victor Hicks. To go ahead and just tell us a little bit about how you got started and what it is exactly that you do.
All right, so I'm the founder and CEO of Coding with Culture. And to put that simply, we are an organization that is looking to build a kindergarten through HBCU pathway in computational and design thinking. So that's our mission, our why behind the work that I do. Started as an educator this is actually year 24 in education, right after the pandemic. Was kind of like, hey, you know, I'm looking for a change, but you know, education, being a teacher was who I was, you know, since I would even say as a kid was raised by teachers, but realized that as much as equity and making sure that children had equitable experiences were, you know, I needed to kind of do it a little more independently. So stepped out on the entrepreneur trail and started a coding program that works on getting coding with culture, diversifying or getting diverse experiences, to Black and brown children, to make sure that we're playing on an equitable playing field in the tech world. So, you know, it's a one-man show, so it's a sole entrepreneurship right now. So I say we, I slip the we's in during the interview, it is definitely speaking that into existence. But really been proud, or really been a very fulfilling experience, I would say. Over the past few years, to see how that entrepreneurship allows me to really pour into the communities who've needed it the most.
Absolutely. So in what moment in your life was that, when did you, what was that key moment that sparked your interest and you were like, this is something that I want to do. This is something that I'm passionate about. You know, this is something that I am going to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, education was always something I was really passionate about, as I mentioned. But I started teaching computer science about 10 years ago, as I relocated from Chicago and went to teach in Atlanta public schools. And it quickly came to me that how much of an equity issue that access to technology, and again, not just sitting on YouTube or sitting on, but actually being able to know how to create and to be, to monetize some of these skills, how much of an equity issue it was, and also how far behind the Black and Brown communities, how far behind they were. And so for me, it almost kind of, and again, I've been very passionate about all of my years in education, but this definitely, I was like, okay, that was that spark, you just kind of get that feeling. And I'm like, yeah, this is something that is, yes, all the school subjects are good, but this is an issue that if our kids are not given these opportunities, they're going to be far behind for decades and even centuries to come. Because as we see, computers and technology are everywhere. AI, ChatGPT took, even about 2 years ago, this wasn't even something that we were talking about in our homes, but we see how quickly technology is evolving and how much of our lives it is touching. So I think once I realized that and I kind of got into the field, and I'm like, okay, this is not something I can afford to not do to the best of my ability.
Absolutely. And I think it's even important to mention that, the access to internet or to a computer is still a lot of families or children don't have access to a household with a wireless internet connection. Like this is something that a lot of us take for granted a lot of the times, or, we overlook that, not everybody even has access, and some families and children do have to go to public libraries to complete their work and their assignments. And then Victor, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was just making sure we might have lost audio for a second. Can you tell us a little bit about your partnership and collaboration with McKenzie's Adventures?
Yes, absolutely. So McKenzie's Adventures is another organization that was run by a close friend and colleague of mine, Yaditza Viaba, out of New York. And she and I really synced a lot over the idea of culturally responsive teaching. So as we get these Black and Brown communities engaged, again, mine was more in the STEM and technology, hers is literacy, pretty much most areas in education, how we can give these experiences that are not only beneficial, but experiences that these communities can connect to. So about a year ago, we started talking. I think it's been about a month and a half. It's been official, where we are providing different consultation services to districts. And then whether that's in technology, we've done some parent outreach. We are trying to get, we have some Google career certificates. So we're looking at getting parents certified in some tech careers. And really, we just realized how simpatico our movements were. And I'm a big believer that collaboration is important. So, if you're doing some good work and I'm doing some good work, if we can figure out how to synchronize those and, impact even more people, the better. So we've been, like I said, we've been working unofficially, for about 5 or 6 months, but like for the past month and a half, it's been a lot more, let's figure out how we can combine our resources and combine what we're doing to help more families and more kids.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned that, you guys provide coding camps, one-on-one classes, and like you even said, teacher professional development. Is there any particular success story that sticks out to you thus far within your guys' work that you guys are doing?
Absolutely. I think for me, we had a partnership with a school that had a really high population, really just, it had a center that was geared towards helping students that were neurodiverse. And so, as when it comes to the middle and high school age, a lot of the, help that these students need. So when they go into their classrooms, and of course, we know from the education perspective, it's good that they have the paraprofessionals and people to help them out. But we also know what it's like to be 13, right? So when somebody is sitting in the classroom, it almost becomes a, how much does their, comfort level and again, their ability and their self-esteem, what kind of a hit does it take? Even though these things are there in support. And so for me, one thing that I loved about technology and computer science was you got to see those kids finally succeed. And in many cases, it wasn't with the assistance of an adult. In many cases, depending on what we were working on, these kids were able to step into leadership roles, being able to be on the other side. So that empowerment, I think, that comes from that was one of the things that really, really stood out. But I think the aha moments, as cliche as it sounds, like when you kind of see the light bulb, come up over the kids' heads, you're like, okay. But I think when it's for those kids that don't get those as often, and when you see those moments, I think those are the stories collectively that stand out the most.
Absolutely. And what have been some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you've overcome? I know you mentioned earlier, being a one man type of band, and doing it, having your hands in the entire project and organization. But what are some challenges and obstacles that you've overcome thus far?
I think one of the biggest things has been a lot of the, and I'll just say, figuring out again, as with any business or any entrepreneurship ventures, like all money's not good money. So we've had partners where, and I think because we have a message that talks about historically Black colleges and HBCUs, and right now that's the buzzword, and the DEI was. We don't know what's going to look like now, but for a long time those were the buzzwords, and so organizations like mine automatically were like, wow, we can check off a lot of boxes. They got a Black man, he's talking about HBCUs, but also I'm not going to be the friendly guy. We're going to tell the truth about how it is. Now, of course, I think we don't teach our history. We don't come from a perspective or a deficit perspective when we deal with our Black and brown students. And that's at the core of why Coding with Culture was there. So I think one of those challenges is making sure that, and we've been burned. I mean, we've had a partner that stands out, a Catholic school in Georgia that was like, oh my goodness. And yes, they had a significant, African-American, Latinx population. And so they loved us, but when we realized that we were not going to just stay Black within or stay brown within this comfort level. And so they mean well, but figuring out that all partnerships, all connections, when you do this type of work, are not good. And so I think for us, it helps us when we think about times like this administration or what's coming up these next few years in our country are going to look like. We're prepared for it, because the thing of it is when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so for us, I think they've been challenges, but the good part about it is it's helped us see what this path and what this fight looks like from a realistic perspective, which allows us to come up with the game plan to be prepared. So and in the moment it sucks, because you build communities, you build partnerships, that's very much the core of who we are. But it was a great reminder that when you build ones that count, the work is tenfold. So a couple bumps in the road, but we're here to tell the story.
Absolutely. And it's so important. Like once you overcome those obstacles, years from now, or even months from now, you can look back and be like, we started off here, or this is where we were. And then now we're way far in advance. Speaking of goals, what are some of your goals for the organization? And where do you see your guys's your trajectory within the next year?
So for us, I mean, ideally, we want to become, and I would say, I think our biggest thing is to become a place that helps connect the dots. I think, we talk about kids that who need, who are not being exposed to these opportunities. A lot of times, those are the kids that possess the raw creativity. And as I tell people, that's one thing. As smart as you can be, creativity is a gift, because it can't be taught. I don't care how talented your teacher, professor may be. That's something that you have to have. Now, if you connect skill to that, that trajectory that you can set your students on. So I think for us, we're trying to figure out, number one, and this is a shameless plug, please, we need to hire somebody else besides Coach Hicks, because as I say, it is definitely a one-man show. But I know that was important for me, because I wanted to, Coding with Culture was definitely my baby. And it was something that was intent is a big part of who I am as a businessman, as a man, as a uncle, as a coach. And so now I feel like I've cultivated it enough that I'm ready to be able to then now teach the teacher, And so one part of it, we've always been able to teach, educators, because again, I can teach the class to a room of 50 kids, but if I teach 10 teachers how to do these things, and that's, multiply that times those students in those classrooms. So I think we're looking to scale. That'll be probably in the next year trajectory. We're always looking for partners. One of the things with McKenzie's Adventures, we now can offer a more diverse menu to districts. So we would love to get in more places, especially in Chicago area, Atlanta, Detroit, Cleveland. We have a pretty strong hold in New York, some other districts, but we also been working with schools in Nigeria. So, it's a global, when we talk about equitable practices, really looking at that, how that looks for these communities in the country, but also, all over the world. So always looking to keep climbing that ladder. And then, hey, if I can hit the lottery, I wouldn't be too make this a hobby instead of a career, but no, it's definitely we're looking forward to it. I think we have to be mindful because I think we know where our country may be, but I think again part of that for my students when we talk about some of those life skills that they'll have to have in technology careers or anything else, when they see their teachers, their educators, their mentors, mirroring some of those problem solving skills that we ask them to do in these classrooms, those are the lessons that count. Because I can tell you about not giving up on coding a video game until I'm blue in the face. But if you see a male, black male entrepreneur that looks like you, that is actually, you're seeing him build this business, you're seeing him put in, keep going no matter what. You see him showing up when it's easy, he's showing up when it's not. That's how I feel like I'm really able to impact those students. So, just gonna keep on keeping on.
And as the educator, so especially in the world we live in today where TikTok and social media is taking over, especially when it comes to our youth, how do you as an educator keep your instructions culturally relevant and engaging for these learners at such a young age?
For me, I think it's meeting them where they are. One thing as I meet with educators, and even like I said, when I was still in the classroom, we hear so many kids that are like, these kids, and they're not, well, the thing of it is that these kids are technically our customers. These are the people who we are going to at some point release into the world to be citizens. So we can't keep allowing these important life lessons, math, science, social studies, computer science, pass them by because we're not tailoring our instruction to who we're the children that we're looking at. So for me, I think it definitely put my feet to the fire. But again, going back to that thing, I'm huge on intent. So I can't be an educator in the midst of being and working with young people and not being willing to display that same grit. So I'm like, if I expect my kids to keep working on code, hey, if I walk into a class and I think I have the best lesson plan after 21 years and it falls dead on a group of students, that's on me. It's not a punish the class moment. It's not a fail everybody. And again, I tell my students, your grades are as much a reflection on me as they are on you. And when I say that, and again, am I still holding them accountable? 110%. But how I hold them accountable, the conversations that I have to have, the way that I have to have these conversations, it's not. And again, it hasn't failed me in the 21 years doing this. But also, I have to be very cognizant of the fact that my methods have to continue to change and my lines of communication. And I don't buy into the, we have to beat down, black and brown kids and be extra tough on them. And, because if I'm a firm believer, how you begin to communicate with someone is how they're going to respond to you. So if I run my classroom like a prison and I'm cussing kids out all day long, what other kind of energy would I be expecting them to bring into that classroom? So for me, I'm going to respect you as long as but again, going back to that modeling, but all of that comes from that intent, because I want to make sure that I'm not just, a factor when I'm giving these kids a bunch of useless work and they're not growing as people as well. So it definitely, you have to stay, it's like I say, the hamster wheel, which you're constantly moving. But I think that's what makes a good educator, because if you get complacent in it, at some point you're not doing the kids what you're not giving the kids what they deserve or need. So just got to roll with the punches. That's all.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, what advice would you give to fellow educators out there that may be watching live or maybe watching this when it comes to being an educator and making a true impact? What is the best advice that you would give them?
I think, just again, be intentional with your work. I think, I will not be blind to some of the struggles and some of the things that my educators, again, it has definitely been a horse of a different color. And I'll say that's to put it nicely, these last few years. But I think that education is not life's work for everyone, and it's some things that if you, get into it, maybe something that you may have had a great 5-year, 10-year, even 20-year run, but also be honest with yourself. If you feel like at some point you can't go in and at least start from a positive every day with young people. No shade on them, but this probably is not the career that you need, because again, the fallback from that is even greater, because again, these kids are making decisions day by day, interaction by interaction on, am I going to keep going? Am I going to give up? And so that puts a very big responsibility back on those teachers. Now, fortunately, I still wake up every day loving what I do, but I'm sure there'll come a point, and I can respect that point from my other coworkers or my colleagues, and that will be the time to bow out. And then, finally just have fun. Like, I mean, I enjoy working with young people. I don't, I know there's days that are, not going to be as great as others, and that's okay. But, love what you do. And, if you don't, find something else that you do love. Because I mean, education, if you don't love it, yeah, I could not imagine doing this every day if I hated or, didn't love seeing young people grow, and especially young kids and, young people that look like me. It's a beautiful thing. So, we do what we do.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and giving us just a little bit of insight as to the difference making that you're doing within those communities and those underserved communities. Also, lastly, are there any upcoming initiatives or events, or, just ultimately, how can people find out more information and get in contact with you? I know we have the Coding with Culture Instagram up on the screen right now, but any projects that are upcoming, or any services, or if people are interested in seeking some instruction, where can they contact you at directly?
Absolutely. Well, I am at Victor.Hicks at codingwithculture.com. But I love, like, Ty's take. We are definitely keeping it simple. All of our social medias are the same, simply because I cannot remember too many screen names. Only got a couple passwords in me. So all of our website, codingwithculture.com, we do, as far as rolling admissions for students or families that are interested in virtual coding classes. So if your kids want to learn how to build video games, record music, design websites, we do have a virtual where you're one-on-one with an instructor online. I do teach a majority of those classes, but it's all project-based. So we have a student that's working actually this evening on his entry into a competition with REFERAL, but it's all through computer science. For schools, we come in and also do partnerships with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, different classrooms. If teachers don't necessarily have a computer science teacher full time, and then finally we work with teachers on a training basis. So professional development, if there's conferences. But our big push right now is for young people. So again, parents can visit, sign their kids up. Our classes meet once a week online, but it does allow them to get exposed to robotics, again, app design, and the parents and their child choose the topic and the project that they want to work on. But it all has a HBCU feel. So the kids are building HBCU apps. The young man is writing a new song that I mentioned earlier, is actually programming a song about an HBCU. So we always try to have that culturally relevant piece in there as well. But yeah, visit our website. Like I said, get the kids involved. Coding classes make a great, because I tell them, tell the kids, hey, if they want to be on the app, my nieces and nephews know you got to know how to build it. So hey, we'd love to hear from some parents, get some folks, but everything is on our website or our social media, which is all Coding with Culture.
Absolutely. Once again, Victor, Coach Hicks, thank you so much for joining us today from Coding with Culture.
Absolutely.
We'll be sure to link our audience in the description and the captions of these videos so that they have your direct contact. And thank you again for all that you're doing. And I look forward to checking in later on into 2025 and see what you guys are currently working on.
Now, if you want to come teach some kids, Ty, I got some space.
I got to learn how to code first, because I can't even code my own website yet. So work in progress, and I can't play a video game to save my life. So we'll definitely work on it. We're gonna have to do a segment where I actually take a course if you're up for it. I'm down. I'm down.
Let me know.
Absolutely. Once again, Victor, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, take care. Y'all have a good one now.
You as well. All right, and welcome back. If you're just now tuning in, this is Ty's Take Today Live. I love the sound of that. Doesn't that just sound good? Y'all got me adrenaline. I haven't even had any coffee today, but before we dive into our next conversation, we have trending topics on the way. We have Benicia Ciara. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. If not, she is going to be the first to correct me. But right now we are actually going to attempt to roll a clip from Drew Verde. He recently was on our previous episodes of Ties Take Today Live, and they just, him and Apropos just came out with a new Christmas single. So I'm going to go ahead and share a glimpse of that, and then we'll be back with more. So let's go ahead and give you guys that video right now.
Heavenly soul place, every step and be so stays. Memories won't fade if everything that we see won't fade. Everything you underestimate can haunt you. You miss that time with your family, realize it wants you. Look back and think about how you'll never get it back. With that glue that been removed, feel like the family been attached. Oh, Hail Mary, one love to the fanberry. One love, all them green made it. It's RP, baby. Put up the tree, baby. Yeah. As long as I got you here for Christmas, ain't no need to search around. You at the top of my wish list. I hope you get this, my love. As long as I got you here this season, be my reason. I'll be your home. Mistletoe and Christmas songs on the radio. Hey, yo. This season, believe it, dealing with me and stuff. My mood like Snoop by the heat whenever the tree is up. Got friends and family, December happy and presents wrapping every crappy day of the year. Don't matter when we link up. My baby fell from the sky like a soldier. Forget I'm alone, head over shoulders. We mistletoe up, preaching to the choir, not the eager minds of them covers. We cherishing every moment till 12:25 is over. Hail Mary, one love to the fanberry. One love, all them green made it. It's RP, baby. Put up the tree, baby. Yeah. As long as I got you here for Christmas, ain't no need to search around. You at the top of my wish list. I hope you get this, my love. As long as I got you here this season, be my reason. I'll be your home. Mistletoe and Christmas songs on the radio. Hey, and I got you home for Christmas, and don't need no place to go. Long as I got you home for Christmas, I'm good. As long as I got you here this season, be my reason. I'll be your home. Mistletoe and Christmas songs on the radio. Hey, yo.
All right, all right, all right. So I don't know about you guys, but if you aren't in the holiday spirit, that song right there will definitely get you in the mood. It's definitely on my December playlist, and I'm gonna be playing it even through January because, as you can see, my baby's got it all decked out here behind me. Christmas Wonderland. That is what it is here on Ties Take Today Live. Once again, that single was Drew Verde and Apropos. They are local Michigan, Detroit artists. And if you missed our conversation with Drew, you can watch that previous interview on our YouTube, on our Facebook. And I am so excited for this next guest. We are just going to roll along here. And like Victor said earlier, he's a one-man band with his organization. I'm feeling the same way because my previous co-host, Lacey, is probably like, yes, Tyler with the rundown. But joining me, she is a up-and-coming multimedia personality, journalist, and I am going to add her to the conversation right now. Make some noise. Hey,
hi. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone. Hey, Tyler. Thank you for letting me be here today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you liked that Christmas song because it's got me in the mood.
It definitely got me in the mood. I was definitely feeling it. I was backstage going like, dun, 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 dun. I'm definitely going to go home and look up those lyrics.
Absolutely. So I don't butcher your name. Why don't you introduce yourself to the takers and let's get things started.
Well, first of all, you got it right. Shout out to Tyler for getting it right. It's Benicia Ciara. Hi, everyone. I have a unique name. Y'all already know that. I am a media personality, journalist, kind of like Barbie. I'm always on the job, always on the move. You know, my goal is to always just get media coverage of sub-communities of Detroit and just, make people feel loved and seen for the art that they are creating. Because I know it's hard when you're trying to get that bridge to be known in the industry. And sometimes, you need to know the small communities and give them their light and give them their love. So that's what I'm about. That's what I do.
Absolutely, I love it. That's what we do here on Side Take today. It's like it's a mix of entertainment, what's trending, but also, like you said, those important conversations that sometimes are swept under the rug, like mental health and those stories that really impact and shape us, our families, our communities. So I'm so excited to learn more about you. I've checked out your website. I've checked out your Instagram. Shout outs to Malik for putting me in contact with you. What really truly in that moment in your life that inspired you and you said, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I actually did something really corny. I took a broadcasting class in high school, and it was like a fulfilled credit for senior year. I was thinking like I was going to go in and do what I already knew because I was really good at photo and video production already. So I was like, cool, easy A, right? Nope. Next thing you know, I became the school's news anchor, and they got me making like little jingles for the school, rap songs, and making commercials. Then they had me doing the morning announcements, and that's how I became this personality, if you will, because I've always been theatrical, and I always feel like, why not add a little sprinkle on life?
Absolutely, I completely can relate doing the morning announcements on TV in high school, starting the morning announcements in middle school where you just were talking into the phone over the PA. So I can totally relate. Flashback to high school and middle school for sure. Who and what truly inspires you when it comes to your work as a journalist and an overall media personality? Are there any local or national people that are on the airwaves or on TV that inspire you, or any family members?
Yeah. Well, everyone knows I love Wendy Williams. That's always my top lady. Everyone knows that. But on a more smaller scale, I've been falling in love with Erica Francis on Fox 2. Love her style of journaling. I love her vivacious way of storytelling because she tells a story as if it's a FaceTime conversation. And I've always loved that about her. Even when she was at CMU, she always had this personal touch to delivering, whether it had been traumatic news or positive news or things to deal with the community. I just always fell in love with like her way of speaking. And Wendy Williams, she gets to it. She's always invited to the spaces, and she's not afraid to be who she is and tell her truth. And that's always been my goal, to always tell the raw, authentic truth of what's happening around me.
Absolutely. And if I did my research right, fingers crossed, I'm always jinxing myself. You describe yourself as the fly girl of Detroit, correct?
Yes.
So how does Detroit influence your approach when it comes to storytelling and journalism?
Because I view Detroit as its own time warp. I feel like we are our own entity. It helps me a lot in my storytelling and my journalism because I noticed that we see things that would not happen within the state of Michigan. Like, we see the most craziest behaviors from peoples. We see loving community events. We see fundraisers. I love just seeing the culture of Detroit evolve from what media previously made it seem. It's always this story about how Detroit is a bad place. And of course, I've experienced some things like that because everywhere you go, it's a bad place. But living in Detroit as a civilian, I see the love in my city more than anything. And it just makes me want to always be the fly girl and be around at every event. That's why I'm flying and shooting off everywhere.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned being a part of Gen Z. So how do you think our generation or I'm sorry, that generation is redefining journalism and media? I know we're going to talk a little bit later about TikTok and is it going to be banned? Is it not going to be banned? But what is Gen Z doing that's totally different than previous generations?
We're not scared to take the non-traditional route. We understand that media, it comes and goes, and there's highs, there's lows, there's trends, and then they die. And we're not scared to just ride the wave of digital unpredictability. I think we have a willingness to try and not be scared to fail within that unpredictability because, hey, digital is almost the new form of currency, the new way of networking, the new way of getting your story and your experience out. And I love that we gamble with that, whether it be, a little too much sometimes, but we do our best. And I love it. All we can do is express ourselves at the end of the day. So I think that's great that Gen Z is using that digital platform to break into journalism. Because before, the only way you could break into it was in a newsroom.
That is very, very true. And like you said or hinted at earlier, when you were speaking about Erica Francis, I think that, not, almost anybody can read the news or tell a story, but I think it's the approach and it's the time and the energy and the passion that you put into what, like you said, whatever story you're telling, whether it's a breaking news story, whether it's, a story on a lighter note. Somebody who truly inspires me, Marielle Liu, also from Fox 2.
Love her too.
she is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Just and like you said, just the approach and the way someone tells the story and feeling that authentic connection, that it's not just about ratings, it's having that connection with our viewers or with your audience. That's exactly. So important.
And that's true.
All right, so I have to know, how do you balance staying authentic with the constant pressures of, like you said, the trends and audience expectations? Mental health is something that we promote strongly here on our platform. I think almost every interview that we have, regardless of who we're interviewing, we always are talking about mental health. How do you stay grounded and find that balance and that separation between work and your personal life?
God, that's literally it. Like, listen, those that knew me before, I was a little buck wild and a lot of rambunctious energy to take in at once. But I've noticed as I've matured in my age, I ground myself by going back to what God originally told me who I am. Like, just going back to that place of understanding that God has confidently made me into this being and he's already called me to it, and standing firm within that. I just try my best to remind myself that it's okay to like trends. It's okay to want to participate, but that doesn't make who you are. That doesn't make, your entire being of a person. You can like stuff and you can not like stuff, but it doesn't change your being. You have to know who you are. And that's why I keep my knowing with that confidentiality with God that I have through our relationship.
Absolutely. All right, Benicia. So now I have to know, what is your advice, or what advice do you have for up and coming media personalities or journalists? And then I'm also going to ask you what you think that our industry as a whole could do differently to help us and when it comes to the stresses and the mental health aspect and that toll that we sometimes are experiencing, and that toll that many journalists all across the country are facing when it comes to newsrooms and radio stations.
Right. The advice I would take is, some stories are going to be a cakewalk. Some stories are going to be traumatic enough to trigger you. And you have to find that balance to understand that sometimes I can't focus on just being myself in this moment, because sometimes you just got a job to do. You just got to tell the story. And I'm not saying that you shut yourself off completely to just get through it and suffer. Like, just understand that it's like, wow, this is going to be a hard day just for media, for everybody. We recently just went through so many hard days with media. So I just see it as a space of understanding that it's a dichotomy in life. Two truths can exist within the same context. It's not good and it's not necessarily bad, but we're doing the best we can with what we have in the resource. And we always just want to always try to be as authentic as possible when sharing those things. And that's where I feel like we just got to be more personable. Don't be scared to be personable, even if that means like physically going to someone's house to get the story. It's okay to go to someone's house. I'll do it. I ride up all the time.
Absolutely. When there's a story to be told, that story is going to be told for sure.
Yeah.
What can we expect from you into the new into 2025, and what are some of your ultimate goals when it comes to this industry that you'd like to manifest?
Going into 2025, I really want to break into doing more live concert interviews. I came up with this idea of, working with artists, if I know that they have a concert coming up in Detroit, and literally right after the show or like, right before their little sets or whatever, get a second to see how they're feeling, check in with them, but not in the sense of like, how do you feel about the show? Just where are you at mentally? You ready? You're going to kill it. I believe in you. Just more so encouragement before you get out there and rock it. So I'm going to definitely incorporate that. Definitely incorporating more, business advice via YouTube, like breaking into the industry and like in regards to that. My end goal, I would love my own television show. That's my end goal. I want to continue talking to people for a living. If I could yap for a living, y'all done messed up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we have your Instagram up on the screen right now. If people are interested in learning more about you or connecting with you, where can they find you? Like I said, the Instagram is on the screen right now, and we're going to link everything into the video description as well after this live stream.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, as long as that's there. You can find me on X now. You can also find me, I think those are all the platforms, at Benicia Ciara, because I'm the only Benicia Ciara, to my knowledge.
All right. So before we get out of here, what we used to do when I had a previous co-host, we did like the day's trending topics, trending today. So are you down for a quick couple trending topics?
Am I down? Absolutely.
All right, let's get things started. So up first, would you delay your engagement announcement out of respect for your ex? So if you guys haven't seen the story, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. Selena Gomez, she just recently announced publicly that she is engaged to music artist Benny Blanco. So you all know the Justin Bieber and Selena back, and it's hard to believe that it was back in 2009.
What?
So 2009 to 2018. But basically, there's reports out saying that they delayed their engagement announcement because she didn't want people thinking that she was trying to one-up Justin because it's the same month that Justin and his wife's son was born. I don't know who's delaying their engagements for nobody, for especially for an ex, but that's not happening here.
Not around these parts in my side of the hood. Let me tell you something. We're not doing that. I don't care what the ex feels, what they're thinking about, or what they got going on. If that man wants to propose right now, we gonna do it right now. And I'm gonna announce it after. Don't worry about that. We don't care about that. That's not real life. Go touch grass. Be for real.
And if you're in the comments, I'm also interested to know just anybody's thoughts on today's episode, today's interviews. Let us know in the comments on YouTube and Facebook if you would delay your engagement announcement out of respect for your ex. My answer is absolutely not. My ex can go kick rocks. So that's the end of that. I'm not doing anything to benefit or help you. It's not happening.
Slim does not exist. It's a hard no. It's a hard no.
All right. So our next story actually is will TikTok be banned in the US? I know they're still trying to decide. we were actually talking about Vine, and I think it's what is the other one, Lemon or
Lemonade.
now?
I think it's Lemonade or Lemonade. I haven't. Don't quote me, y'all. I know I'm a journalist. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. Yeah.
I just yeah, I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah. So the thing about TikTok being banned, we're not gonna paint it as if like, oh, it's just gonna go away, and like, no, people are gonna lose jobs. People are gonna lose money. It's gonna be like a serious thing. So I'm not gonna paint it as it's not serious, because it's gonna affect the economy. And you have to look how much TikTok contributed to the US economy. If you look at the numbers, it's billions. So outside of that, this is just Vine again. If y'all remember back in the day, I think it was like 2014, 2015. One day we were in high school and Vine stopped working. We went home, we clicked. I couldn't see my Meet You on Mars. I couldn't see my stuff. So I think once again, we just gonna find another app, or they're just gonna go back to making long form content on YouTube. Yep.
I agree, and I think it's regardless at the end of the day, if we're shutting down these social media apps, there's always eyes and people watching. So I'm gonna leave it at that. When we're talking about something right now, and then it pops up on your feed, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
No, they know they're listening to us. I'm not scared to say it. It's cool. They're listening to you. If you didn't know, if you have the Siri option on your phone, they're watching you. They're tracking your data. Data is the new oil. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people are doing that. I think is it Blue Space, Blue Sky?
Sky
Blue?
or Blue. It's called Sky something. Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't invest into it because it's almost like Instagram Notes. We all downloaded the app and didn't use it.
And then there's Threads too, which I feel like people are still trying to use.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Threads, not Notes.
I don't post on Threads often, but I posted about considering trying this vegan diet into January. And when I tell you that was the highest interactive post I got on Threads, I said I'm gonna become a vegan content creator real quick.
The Threads app, it came and it kind of went. I see some people using it. I see some people like, I accidentally got it. I don't really use it. I don't.
It came with the Instagram.
Right. It's like, I might as well. But, I see it as, we're just moving over to another app and we just got to go back to long form content. That's it. We got to go back to long form content.
In-depth stories and conversations that truly are authentic and matter. That's what I'm going to call it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Benicia, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Ty's Take Today Live. It's such a mouthful to say. I'm still getting used to saying it. But I'm looking forward to touching base with you and seeing what this upcoming year has in store. Hopefully, you'll be willing to join us again for some more interviews and segments. And I'm excited.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on here. Shout out to my brother Malik for allowing me to have this opportunity. Big shout out to God, regardless. None of this is possible without God. Let me just say that. I'm just a vessel. But I really want to just thank you. Thank you to everybody that's been supporting me, loving me. Shout out to my family that's watching. And, I love you guys. I love the world. I just want to keep talking to people. And, Ty, we can join at the hip now. You can't get rid of me. You got my Instagram.
Hey, I found my next co-host. I also want to say thank you to Malik for allowing us to virtually meet and to have you on the show. And then, of course, one more time, in case people are just tuning in, Lady C is in the chat saying she loved it. So I want to make sure
that's my girl. That's my first lady, y'all. Well, not first lady. She don't like be calling that. Excuse me. That's my lady, y'all. That's my lady of my church, Transformation Christian Church. You already know, y'all. Get God in your life.
Absolutely. I just wanted to make sure we got that comment in there before we wrap up. And then also someone earlier, George Stewart II, if I can show it, said, speaking about my conversation with Victor, that their daughter was a student of his, and it's an amazing program. So like I said, just continue to chime in with your thoughts. We're on all social media platforms. With that, this has been Ty's Take Today Live. It's 7 p.m. Eastern. Time to get up out of here. But we'll be right back here this coming week on Thursday and Sunday, again at 6 p.m. Eastern. All right, Benicia, I will talk to you soon. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so once again, this has been Ty's Take Today Live. I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'll be back later this week with more conversations. So I am just so grateful for you all tuning in. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and give you all our social media platforms. If you have a story idea or you're interested in being on the show, be sure to hit us up on all of our social media platforms. And in case you don't remember, those platforms are as follows: Instagram at It's Ty's Take Today, Facebook.com/at It's Ty's Take Today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube at what, of course, is Ty's Take Today. And we'll be back next week. So I just wish you all a safe and relaxing evening. And we'll talk real soon.